Is there anything you want me to promote during the podcast?
Children.
There you go. For sure. Gosh, absolutely.
You might as well love them.
Might as well. What else are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
There you are. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have everyone here and listening in. I've got an amazing guest. As you know, I have a strong belief in family and faith. The two go absolutely together for me. And this guest is part of that. He understands that. This is Rabbi Friedman, and you can find him on YouTube, and he's got some books out there, and it's pretty amazing. Rabbi, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Hi. We're here to talk about children, raising children, parenting, and the pleasures thereof.
Yeah. And that's my tagline is let's find joy in parenting. We can get all bogged down with how hard it is and, it just can wear you out. But there's joy in every day with your children. And if you're not finding that, you just probably need to look a little harder because it is definitely there.
Or you need to know a little more confidently what you're doing.
I would agree. And that's kind of the goal that we have is trying to help these young parents. You and we're going to look back and say, oh, I wish I had known this when I was in my 20s and starting my family. And so I'm hoping we can share some insights and stuff to help these young parents find a path that will be fulfilling for them and their children.
Adding to their confidence.
Absolutely.
Not undermining it.
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's so many things. Nobody's getting it right. Nobody's getting it 100% right. It's okay and it's expected to make mistakes. But then are you going to beat yourself up over those mistakes? Or are you going to come to, at the end of the day, review the relationship exchanges that you've had with your spouse, with your children, and then saying, this one I could have handled better. I wonder, why did I react the way that I did? What was going on? And then what can I learn from that? And then do better. If I need to make apologies, jump in and make those apologies and talk with your child or your spouse and say, how can we make this work better?
It's a growing, learning, dynamic process.
Yeah. So one of the key things that I believe is that the greatest gift what we can give our children is finding that stable, loving home environment and a strong marriage where an example is set for the kids on how to work through conflict and disagreements and how to treat one another with respect, because they're going to watch you. And very often it's girls tend to marry men a lot like their fathers. Boys tend to often marry women like their mothers because that's what they know. That's what they're comfortable with. And so how are we going to set them up for that success with the relationship that we have with our spouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you live with each other is your first lesson to your children.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. So what are some of the suggestions or thoughts that you have on that?
Well, there are many ways in which we can make our children healthy. Just basic necessities. Like you mentioned, stability, security, safety.
Mm-hmm.
Child needs to have a stable, safe base,
Mm-hmm.
home base. That's not educating your children. That's simply not destroying them.
Mm,
That's just maintaining a healthy child. So you haven't really raised your children if you give them security and safety. I mean, that's just the nest. But that's so important, of course.
mhm.
Now, here's part of the dilemma for parents today. How much authority do we have at home, parents?
Well, there's a big push right now to lessen the authority that we have.
And because we never really had a method, there's no rule book
Mhm.
that comes with the birth of a child that says do not machine wash. Like we need to figure that out on our own. But because there is no manual, many parents feel insecure about it, unprepared, unqualified. And so they're a little tenuous, they're a little hesitant. The children pick that up immediately, and you lose all authority.
Mhm.
Now, in the olden days, not that long ago, parents could spank their children,
Mhm.
and it was okay. It really was. I'm not talking about abuse,
Right.
but spanking of a child. And it's interesting how you listen to people talk about those days, and they say, wow, I could never get away with doing that with my parents. Oh, my father would. And it's always with a smile, and it's always a pleasant memory. Why isn't it working anymore? Today you cannot. Not you're not allowed. You can't. You
Yeah.
can't spank a child and and get good results. Why is
Right.
it? I think it's because in the child's mind, who are you to spank me? If you're the authority, okay, but you're not. So who are you to spank me?
Mm.
But then what's the alternative? Send them to their room? The child is thinking, who are you to send me to my room? So if we don't have authority, if we can't spank them, we have no authority for anything. So we try to discipline our children and it doesn't work, which makes us even more insecure.
Mm.
Now we're terrified of our children. We're afraid of them. What if they don't like me? What if they refuse? What am I going to do? The children, of course, pick up that hesitance and suffer for it because they need you to be the authority.
Mhm.
So now they're acting out their frustrations. Big mess. So the last thing we want to do is undermine parents' confidence.
Right.
Worse comes to worse. You will make the same mistakes your parents made. And the result will be that your child will turn out to be like you. The result of
Mm.
the same mistakes. How is that so terrible? I know we all want our children to be better than us. But what if
Yeah.
they're not better? What if they're the same? Wouldn't be terrible. In fact, that would be pretty successful. If your
Yeah.
children are no worse off than you're a good parent.
Well, and we've got situations where on media, on the shows they watch, the movies we go to, that the parents are made to look like idiots and the children are off solving problems on their own despite the intervenings, the parents are looked at as getting in the way of the children solving whatever problems on their own. And so they're blasted with that. As a teacher, you've got kids coming to school and I think parents, one thing that parents are afraid of is teachers are mandated reporters. And so if a child says, my daddy hits me, it's a whole can of worms right there. And so I think it's really important that we give our parents ideas and things that they can do instead. And there are some things that we can do in working with our kids and talking to them, and again, showing them how to have a strong relationship with you and your spouse and working on that, but also working on it with them and saying, let's take something easy. They're having a cow in the middle of the grocery store because they wanted the Little Debbie's ho-hos or whatever it is. And you have all these people watching you, and you can be kind of scared about it. Or you can just say, well, you can throw whatever fit you're going to fit, but we're not getting the ho-hos. I can see you're upset and you're sad. And if you need to work that out, but that doesn't change this boundary that I'm setting here. And so when they calm down, then we can offer some choices or whatever of healthier things. But you still, man, you need to set those boundaries with whatever.
And for that, you need confidence.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting spanking kids. Not at all, unless it's a real emergency.
Mm-hmm.
But what does give parents authority? What gave my parents authority?
Well, I would think the way that they handle themselves is a big part of that they have respect for themselves and their knowledge. But I think even beyond that, the ultimate authority becomes from God, that we are expected to establish ourselves there and then use that.
Honor your father and mother.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very powerful influence. Well, in terms of human traits,
Mm-hmm.
what gives a person authority is their confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Even among adults, you have a group of adults discussing something. Whoever speaks with the most confidence wins the argument. They say, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. How do you know he knows what he's talking about? Because he has so much confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Parents used to have great confidence. I'm the father, I'm the mother. What's the question? What I say is right. I'm telling you the truth. You listen to me, you'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
Confidence. Confidence produces authority. Another thing is when the mother expects respect for the father and the father demands respect for the mother. It's pretty pathetic if I have to demand respect for myself.
True.
Then I'm at their mercy. But if I'm like, hey, you can't talk to your mother like that. Or your mother asked you to do something. Why are you waiting?
Mm-hmm.
That is very helpful.
That
How
is
parents defend
huge.
each other. But a mother who says something to her child and the child looks at the father and they both laugh or roll their eyes.
Mm.
You pretty
Well, and
much,
I've heard parents say they think it's funny. It's so funny. He does this disrespectful thing. I'm thinking, oh, it's cute when they're 2, but wait till they're 16.
okay. So now let's assume that everything is in place, all the necessary pieces. Parents respect each other.
Mhm,
They demand and expect children's respect for the other.
mhm,
And now you have a calm, peaceful, safe structure for the children.
mhm.
Now begins the education,
Right.
or what we call raising children. Not protecting them, raising them. Here is something we don't often hear. What in the world does it mean to raise a child? I know you raise corn. How do you raise a child? We have various forms of pleasure. A child at birth experiences only one kind of pleasure: touch. That's the sense that gives pleasure and security. A little later on, taste.
Mhm.
Taste. They put everything in their mouth. You got to taste it all and see what it is. So they know touch and taste.
Mhm.
That is the pleasure of their lives. And that's why if you don't hold them and you don't feed them, there's no pleasure in life because they don't know any other pleasure. So it's like you're cuddling them too much, you're going to spoil them. You're not going to spoil them. It's the only pleasure they can experience.
Right.
But then the objective is to raise them. Raising them means introduce a better, higher pleasure into their life. Raise the bar of pleasure. Of course, there has to be some discipline, goes without saying. But really, raising children successfully means you move them from the level of pleasure they had to a higher, more meaningful, more noble pleasure. So, what do? This is universal. We sing to them.
Mhm.
Mothers sing to their children. The idea behind that is not to develop musical talents. The idea is introduce a better pleasure that a child can experience.
Mhm.
The rhythm of music is a new pleasure, and children love it.
Yeah.
So you've introduced something a little more noble than eat and touch. In fact, Jewish tradition, I'm sure other communities as well, the place we sing most often is at the table.
Oh,
So when you're enjoying the food, the pleasure of taste, we want to interject a little other pleasure,
right.
a finer pleasure, that of music, song, the audio pleasures,
Yeah.
which is more refined than touch and taste.
Well, and we learn things more quickly through songs too, whether it's religious traditions or I even have a song I sing with my kids when they're stuck waiting to help them recognize they're waiting patiently. You're able to teach so much through song.
Which is an additional benefit.
Right.
But even if you're just humming
True.
or whistling, then you introduce a higher pleasure. You raise them another rung on the ladder that stands on earth and reaches into heaven. The next rung is good character,
Mm.
heroes. People who do things that are special, that are extraordinary, impressive. How do we teach that? Stories. We read stories,
Mm-hmm.
and they love it. And they get
Mm-hmm.
more pleasure from a story than from a song or from a ice cream. But you got to pick the stories.
True.
Humpty Dumpty. No. What? No. Somebody did something so noble, and everybody was proud of them.
Mm-hmm.
They were so brave. They were so kind. They were so smart. Something. Now you want to raise them to a higher level. The next step. The next step in pleasure is intelligence. When you ask a child a riddle and they figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
the pleasure is overwhelming,
Yeah.
greater than all the others. So we have to cultivate an enjoyment of intelligence, to be able to figure something out, to know an answer to a question, to be smart. Now we're starting to become human beings.
Yeah.
Then you go to the final level, the highest level, the pleasure of serving others.
Huge.
It's got to be a pleasure, not a burden, not an obligation, a pleasure. If you do that, you win the Nobel Prize. So to raise children is not a psychological endeavor. We're so concerned about our children's psychological health that it makes us crazy.
Mm.
We're so worried. Is it going to hurt their self-image? Are they going to be traumatized? Stop. If you don't hurt them, they'll be fine. Don't worry about their psychology. Not every child is a patient. Not every
Mm.
child needs to be in therapy. And not every uncomfortable or painful experience is a trauma. We've gotten so caught up in this psychobabble that we're making our kids crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The objective is not to protect their egos. The objective is to elevate them from the pleasures they're born with to a more noble, more sophisticated, more human pleasure. Pleasures that are unique to the human being. Now you've created a mensch.
Ah. Now for our non-Jewish friends, can you explain mensch?
It actually has become an English word. You can look it up in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mensch means a fully humanized being. I remember wondering about that word. I would get up from the table and walk away, and somebody would say, clean up, help clean up the table, be a mensch. So I
Mm.
thought, okay, a mensch means somebody who cleans up tables. But then another occasion, a sibling was upset and angry, and I'm screaming at him, and my mother says, can you talk like a mensch? What is there to clean up here? No, speaking thoughtfully and considerately to somebody who's upset makes you a mensch.
Mm.
Oh, okay. It's getting complicated.
Yeah.
And then every other time I didn't do the right thing, it was like, oh, you're not a mensch.
Mm.
So a mensch means someone who is fully humanized, which means you'll clean up when people are cleaning up. You'll talk nicely when somebody needs it. You'll say hello and goodbye and be polite. The details will follow, but you are a mensch, and you can be trusted to do the mensch thing
Nice.
under all circumstances.
Yeah.
So I think that might help kind of define or focus what it means to parent
Mhm.
without getting into the psychobabble. Did I traumatize my child? I told him he was stupid.
Oh, jeez. How did he take that?
Should you get down on your knees and apologize and admit that you're a lousy parent? No. By the way, you have to be careful with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you tell your children, I'm a lousy parent, you've taken away their last hope.
Ah, but I think too, we can show our kids that we can learn from our mistakes, that we're not perfect. We understand that, but we are still a work in progress, much like they are still a work in progress. And you can say, I learned something, and this is what I think it's going to mean for us. And you have that conversation with your child. I learned that screaming at you all the time isn't probably the best route to go. So we're going to work on this as a family and try to bring kindness back into our home where we show each other respect and love.
I have a feeling that parents who learn that screaming at their kids doesn't work and talks about it to their children will probably continue screaming.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say it, do it.
Yeah.
Stop screaming. So parents need to be honest, not apologetic. So if you said something that was wrong, be honest. Say, you know what I said to you yesterday? I found out that that's not the way it is. I'm correcting the facts. I'm setting the record straight. Yesterday, I was angry at you because I thought you lied. Well, it turns out you didn't lie. I'm so glad that that's true. I'm not apologizing for being your mother, ever. So it's not like, I'm so clueless that you can't trust anything I say because don't do that to your kid. He needs you to be her hero or his hero. Don't take that away. But if you said something wrong and the child knows you were wrong, set the record straight. I found out that you weren't lying. I found out that it really was your toy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very glad that that turned out good. But don't apologize for mothering ever. One other thing that might help restore our confidence.
Mm-hmm.
There really is no such thing. There is no such thing as a good mother. Because you can never be good enough. You can't.
Mm.
You can never be a good wife. You're never good enough. You can never be good enough for God. You can't. So to say, am I a good Jew? Am I a good Christian? No, you'll never be. Are you a good daughter? Even if your parents say, oh, she was such a good daughter. No, you weren't. You know what it means to be a good daughter or son? So when it comes to these relationships, there's no such thing as good because you can never be good enough. It's endless. So don't try to be a good Jew or a good Christian. Don't try to be a good mother, a good wife, or a good daughter, a good husband, a good father, or a good son. It ain't going to happen. Every day, today, I will try to do the right thing, the best you can get. So stop judging, stop keeping records. Don't judge. Oh, today I wasn't a good mother. Yesterday I was a good mother. Don't do that. There's no good mother. There's just mothering.
Hmm.
If we had to put a label on it, a good mother is a mother who never regrets being a mother.
Mm.
Bad mother, if you regret being a mother. But everything in between that, perfectly okay. God gave you a child. He knows you.
Mhm.
And in his mind, you can be the mother to this child with all your flaws, with all your failings, with all your weaknesses. So stop apologizing. Mother, mother to your heart's content.
Wow.
Father, do it. Don't judge it. Will you ever become a good father? No. Just don't quit on your kid.
And isn't that a big key when you say, just don't quit on your kid? Because I have seen parents who just kind of give up. I can't get them to do anything.
This one woman told me that she was verbally abused by her parents,
Mhm.
and she vowed that she would never do that to her kids. We should never make vows. Anyway, so it turns out she had teenage boy and girl
Mhm.
when she discovered that she was verbally abusing them. Not intentionally, of course.
Right.
When she discovered that she was verbally abusing her children and she had vowed that she would never do that to her children, she abandoned them.
But
She was not going to verbally abuse them. And she tells me this very proudly. I left them because I will never do to them what my parents did to me. Your
yeah,
parents never abandoned you.
yeah.
So there's the danger of the judgment of parenting. Were her parents good parents? No, but they parented.
Mhm.
She gave up on the kids. She quit on them.
Mhm.
Much worse.
Yeah.
Much worse. So, as long as you're motivated, as long as you're committed to being the mother, you're fine. Do it. You'll make mistakes, probably the same mistakes your mother made. That's okay.
Very often that's the case.
The things you promise you'll never do, those are the ones you're probably going to do.
Yep.
So if you don't introduce original mistakes, you only repeat the mistakes your parents made, you're okay. Because we want more than that, which is noble. Try to be better than your parents, but first be at least as good as they were.
Yeah.
Then you can bypass them or pass them by and become better. But until you're as good, don't think you're better.
Well,
See,
isn't there a danger in thinking that we're better than anyone else? Then we've got that judgment piece coming in. So let me be what I know.
And
you know,
what you know is your mother's mistakes.
exactly, exactly. So if we judged our mom with those mistakes, we're going to judge ourselves when we catch ourselves doing them. And so I think it's good to learn more about how children develop, what areas that they're able to comprehend new things, what processes are in place as they're little and they grow from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And the more you know, you're going to be able to make some different decisions. But to sit and say, I'm better than my mom or I'm better than my dad is, I think, just a negative outlook on things, and it brings judgment to yourself.
Yes, it can be terrible if you think you're better than your parents when in fact you're not.
Yeah.
But if in fact you are,
Hmm.
you can give yourself some credit. If in fact you are,
Hmm.
you're better in communicating, good. You're better with scheduling and keeping a neat home, okay. Give
Hmm.
yourself credit where it's deserved. But the worst thing you can do is to vow never to be like your parent. Now you've become totally paralyzed. You
Yeah.
can't function at all. And then you have to resort to raising your children by a book, the most popular book of the day.
Hmm.
That's dangerous because then you're not the authority. And the kids know it immediately. I know a mother who was very, very disciplined and raised her children according to Dr. Spock,
Yeah. I was just thinking of him.
not Mr. Spock.
No, Dr. Spock.
Dr. Spock.
Difference.
Yes.
No pointy ears.
Yeah. Anyway, her children happened to be very bright kids. And one day she said something to her child, and the boy said, page 19.
How funny.
So who's raising me? You or the book?
Yeah.
So it's got to be more organic. It's got to be more. We learn about children from books, child psychology, whatever it is, which is the science of it. But mothers know more about children than any book, their children.
Hmm.
So you really have to trust your motherly instinct. Doctors need to trust a mother's instinct. If a mother says, I think something is wrong, and the doctor can't find anything wrong, he should go back to medical school because the mother is probably right.
Yeah.
So we don't want to lose the art of parenting and remain just with the science of it.
Yeah. I was fortunate to have a really good pediatrician when my kids were young. And we'd come in and he'd say, okay, mom, what do you think is going on? And I would tell him, and that's the first thing he would check. And he just said, mothers know. Yeah.
And fathers need to appreciate that too.
Hmm.
Like your father's been gone all day, he comes home, and the mother says, I think something's wrong with, and he takes a look and he says, no, nothing wrong. Hey, what do you know?
Yeah.
Trust the mother.
Yeah, for sure.
So sometimes, just even talking about how to raise children leaves parents feeling uncertain.
Hmm.
Oh, is that what you're supposed to do? Why, I didn't ever know that. So did I already ruin my kids beyond repair?
I get that a lot with my coaching. That parents come and they think, oh, I've ruined it. My kids are doomed, No, no, they're not. And there's always free choice. And I see parents who are amazing, great, involved, good parents. and they'll have a kid or two go screwbally, as they get older. And I've seen kids who've come from horrible conditions, and it breaks my heart. And yet I've seen kids come out of that situation as amazing human beings. And so don't ever think that you've ruined your kids, and you can always move forward.
I think one final cautionary note.
Mhm.
Parents live a life. The children observe the life their parents are living.
Mhm.
If they're impressed, then they can't wait to step into those shoes and become parents and adults themselves.
Mhm.
But when parents don't have a life worth living and they devote themselves completely to the children's lives, so the adult life is centered and focused on the child's life. So you drive the child from one activity to another, from one party to another. The child's life is your life. This is backwards. You live a life worth living and let the child run to keep up.
Mm.
Don't become your child's chauffeur or party planner.
Mhm.
Don't live their lives. Live your life. They'll learn, they'll see, they'll want. Then they can't wait to grow up. But if you live your life around them, they'll never want to grow up. And then you have this whole
Mm.
generation of 30 somethings who just want to splash with their feet in the river and eat potato chips and say that it doesn't get any better than this.
Right.
So in traditional families, children can't wait to grow up. They want to
Mm.
become mommies, they want to become daddies, they want to become whatever their parents are.
Mhm.
In the non-traditional families and the modern families, children will never grow up. They're in their 30s and they act like 9-year-olds.
Mm.
And their only real pleasure is taste and touch. Hedonists. Fancy
Yeah,
name.
it
Really,
is.
but really, they're just babies. They were never raised from that level of pleasure to the more noble pleasure of the pleasure of serving others,
Yeah.
being of service.
Yeah. Making this space that you are taking up in this world worth value.
And so parents should never say to their kids, don't want you to grow up like me.
Mm.
Well, then what are you giving them? Who should they grow up to be like? The basketball star? Madonna?
Well, heaven help us.
So look at the posters that kids have in their rooms.
Yeah.
Who are their heroes? Stunted children.
Yeah. That's very true.
In many cases, those heroes hanging on the wall on the posters are less mature than the kid who hangs them.
That is so true. I've even got a thing kind of going on. There are actors and athletes and musicians, all of those things that I admire their talent, but I try not to learn anything about their personal life and stuff because pretty much I'd say 90% of the time I'm disappointed, and I'd rather just admire their talent and not let that other part be a thing for me. So I kind of stay away from, so and so said this or so and so is doing that. I don't want to know.
Yeah. Really, it's a matter of values. What do we admire? a big, big issue.
Mm-hmm.
You never use a talent as a role model.
Mm-mm.
Gotten us into a lot of trouble.
And it continues to get us into trouble.
I mean, even to go to the extreme, Hitler was so popular.
Yeah.
He was so gifted. You had to really be in awe of what he could do with an audience,
Mm-hmm.
how he could move people with his oratory. Better than any actor in Hollywood today.
Very true.
But a role model?
No,
Okay, that's an extreme example, but
it is. But it's all around us though, too. And I think having the confidence to understand that even those people that we really look up to, they're all going to make mistakes. They're all going to have poor judgment, and that doesn't excuse us following them on that path. And when we have the confidence and the understanding to say, well, that's an interesting path for them, I can still appreciate his ability to dunk a basketball, but that doesn't have really anything to do with the decisions that I'm going to make or the ideas that I cling to. And that takes confidence. We're back to confidence, aren't we?
not only is there nothing for me to learn from the fact that he's good at basketball, there's nothing for him.
Yeah.
Being good at basketball doesn't do anything for his life.
Right.
It doesn't give him a life. It doesn't constitute a life. He doesn't have a life. He's got to go get a life. Usually it doesn't bother.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you see so many bad decisions coming through, because their idea of what their life is all tied up with this one piece, and they're not developing the other important parts of who they are. Definitely.
The same is true with wealthy people.
Yeah.
You're good at making money, but do you have a life?
Right. How's
Those,
your family doing?
those who have a life worth living, those are the people we should emulate and we should envy and admire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. So if our listeners want to get more of you and hear more, where would they go?
Go online, it's good to know.org.
It's good to know.org. Excellent.
It's good to know.
Yeah. Very much so. And you're all over the place, really. I found you on on YouTube is where I found you.
YouTube has been an excellent outlet.
Hmm.
The internet is just an amazing thing.
Yeah,
I know it
it's a
can be
two-edged sword.
right, right, but that's true of everything. Love is a good thing, and love can be deadly.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
proceed cautiously, but take advantage. There's so much good on the internet.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, okay, so I always ask my final question. How would you describe a successful parent?
A parent who never loses the enthusiasm for
Mm,
parenting. If you're an enthusiastic parent, you're perfect.
yeah. Yeah, I see
No matter
parents
what
sometimes
books
who
you
are very
read,
tired. Go again?
no matter what the books say.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. I get this thing with, I need my me time or I need a girls' night out. I never wanted that. If I was going to go out, I want to go with my husband. He's my best friend. He's the one that I really enjoy spending time with. And I wouldn't ever want him to think that I need time away from you so I can be happy. And it's kind of, for me, it was the same with my kids. You know, my happiest times then and now are when I'm with my husband and my kids. That's it.
Yeah, got to be careful with that one.
Yeah,
When you tell your child, I need to go to sleep now, you're not saying I need to stop parenting.
right.
Like, now I'm not your parent. I'm off duty.
And when I see families that just look like they're close and engaged and enjoying one another, they're involved with one another. It's not, I have to get away from you.
No, you really can't get away, so stop trying.
It's true. They're with you wherever you go. Not physically, certainly in your heart and in your mind.
Mhm.
So
You might as well love them.
might as well. What else are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
There you are. Well, Rabbi Friedman, I am so glad you took the time to spend and share your knowledge with us and for our podcast. And I just wish you all the best and continued success and keep just spreading that knowledge and belief. That's so key.
Thank you. I will try.
All right. Sounds good.
Speaking of good news, there's a wonderful retreat coming up, the National Jewish Retreat, run by the JLI, Jewish Learning Institute. It's going to be August 9th through the 14th in the Miami area, in a 5-star hotel, best speakers, best lectures, best classes, best accommodations, and best food. So if you have those 5 days free, or any one of those 5 days free, think about joining us. It's going to be great for body and soul. And there's actually a discount if you put my initials in there, RMF. There's a little discount for those who are already committed, already studying, already interested. Google it, look it up, Jewish Retreat, JLI. And hopefully we'll see you there. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it.